Today we're going to be talking about something that I don't think gets enough airtime in VetMed, and that is what it actually looks like to be a veterinary professional and a mom at the same time. And really, not the Instagram version, the real version of what it's actually like when you're juggling appointments and customer calls and documentation and all these things and still somehow managing to keep your little tiny humans alive and well. And so we have these three incredible panelists here today who are all living it in different ways. And really the goal is just to have an open and honest conversation about what it's like, what's working for them, what's hard and what's changed, since they've become moms. And yeah, so we're super excited. So thank you all for coming. To all my panelists, thank you for your time here today. And we're super pumped. And so before we jump in, just a couple of quick logistics. This is going to be conversational. It's not going to be a lecture. We'll chat for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for all of your questions from the chat. So keep those coming in the chat, and then we'll get to as many as we can in the Q&A as possible. All right, so now I'm going to introduce our amazing panelists. And before I do that, I did want to talk about some of the things that you'll walk away with today. And so first and foremost is knowing that you are absolutely 100,000% not alone. There are a community of us all going through this and experiencing motherhood and this crazy journey in VetMed all at the same time. And I think it's something that can get really easily lost in the shuffle of things. So definitely we're all here for each other, I'd like to think. Next, and I think one of the other most important things is we're going to show you some ways and talk about some things you can do to spend more time at home with your family and less time in the clinic, even doing things outside of just seeing patients, documenting all of those types of things. And I can't wait at the very end to introduce you to hopefully your new best friend and our brand new product here at Scribenote, our version 2 of our companion. So yeah, it's going to be a great day. All right, so first and foremost, joining us today is Dr. Marie Holowaychuk. She is a board-certified emergency and critical care specialist. And if you've been in VetMed for any sort of length of time, I'm sure you have heard about her work. She is the author of A Compassionate Calling, the host of Reviving VetMed, the podcast, and basically the person who has been talking about burnout and balance in this profession long before it was trendy. In 2014, a car accident was her wake-up call, and since then she's been helping vets build lives that don't break them. So Marie, thank you so much for being here. Next up, we have the incredible Dr. Ashley Gray. Ashley is a small animal vet and the co-founder of Veterinarians on the Rise. She is now a part-time stay-at-home mom too, and she graduated from Virginia Tech in 2014 and went straight into the chaos of ER life. She knows firsthand how tough that transition into practice can be. She is now redefining what a vet career can look like when you refuse to choose between being a good mom and being a good vet. Ashley, I'm so happy and glad that you're here. And last but not very much not least, the incredible Dr. Katie Gallagher and the reason that Scribenote exists. Katie is a small animal vet with 9 years of experience in general practice, and she's also my colleague here at Scribenote. Full transparency, her documentation burden literally inspired her brother Ryan to start this company. She is navigating new motherhood right now, as we can all see with that adorable little chunk baby. Oh my gosh. And while she's also shaping the tools that are helping vets get out on time and spend more time with their families. So Katie, thank you so much for doing this. I know, this is a lot, so thank you so much. All right, let's jump in. So the first question that we have for you today, if there's one thing that you could go back and tell yourself for your first day in clinic after becoming a mom, what would it be, Ashley?
Very good question. Now, after having 2 kids, I've done some things well, some things bad, and learned a lot of different lessons. But I'd say the biggest thing is to lower your expectations immediately, because life is now taking on a new form, and you cannot go back expecting to be at the same capacity on day one. So I felt like it took a couple weeks to get in a groove, especially, having a child pulled off your body, taken to daycare. You start your day a bit emotional. And so it takes a few weeks and really months to feel pretty grounded. So make sure at home, like, you're not too worried about the house being super clean. Just be in survival mode right now. And then professionally, chat with management to make sure that you have some blocks in your day, some time for mental decompression, for pumping if you decide to do that, and just some catch up time, because it's going to take a little while to get back to your normal. And having those little breaks can really help you reset while you're transitioning.
That's amazing. I feel like all of those things would have been helpful for me in my first few days back, for sure, especially the pumping part. I always
Yeah.
felt so much guilt, like walking off the floor. Marie, was there anything else that was something that you sort of experienced and would like to tell yourself?
Yeah, I think, it's springboarding off of what you just said, Allie, with the guilt. I had Bethany as a single mom by choice. So I used a donor to get pregnant. And for the first 5 years of her life, I was by myself. And it made things really hard. I had a hard stop at the end of the day because nobody else was going to pick her up from school. My parents didn't live close to me. I didn't have a nanny or anything like that. And so there was a lot of guilt involved, and I felt like less of a ER doctor and criticalist when I felt that tug of, thinking about my daughter, checking in with daycare to see how things were going, and then having to leave at the end of the day. And I think, the advice is that it doesn't make you any less of a veterinarian just because you have these other obligations. I think, as well, I'm sure we'll all talk about, I think it makes us better veterinarians in some ways when we become parents. But I really had to find a way to just let go of that guilt and tell myself everything is going to be okay. And if I could go back, I would say that everything's going to be okay. That includes being able to trust the people and the systems in place where you again in the ER and ICU, there's always somebody there. And I just had to trust that when I did have to leave at the end of the day, my team's got it. I might not be there and it might not be the same as it used to be where I could just stay until everything was wrapped up nicely in a bow. It just really reminded me, the work never ends and they've got this. And if they need me, they'll call me and not feel bad about it.
Wow, I think those are such incredible points, because I do think it's hard to feel, even uh, in any role really, that you're not sort of compromising on either end, right? It's like you're compromising with your family and at work. So I think that's such an important point. And next I have for you. Okay, so what's something about being a mom in vet med that you didn't expect, like something that no one had warned you about?
I'm going to jump in. And I think this is getting worse as I now move into perimenopause. I had my daughter when I was 40, so I, was at the end of my fertility lifespan and pretty much jumped right into perimenopause after that. But for me, it's the mental load. I used to just, be so on top of things, and I feel like as a mom, there is so much more information in our brains about feeding times, nap times, play dates as they get older, health appointments. My daughter's been diagnosed with ADHD and we've had a lot of challenges with her. So psychology appointments, pediatrician appointments, classes, lessons, all of these things. And so I feel like even, going back early on, it was like I was in a constant state of managing all of these things in my brain and then having to calculate constant rate infusions for a patient with sepsis. Like, it felt like a lot, and it still feels like a lot. And I think for me, that was the big thing, as well as this sort of, again, dual identity. Like, you've got this identity as a parent, and you've got this identity as a veterinarian, and you're juggling both. And I mean, it's just wild, the things that we can do. I think we are really all superhuman when we're able to mesh both of those worlds. That's what I would say.
I agree. And I'll tag team off of that. That's where mommy brain comes in, right? That quote unquote term we hear a lot. And what I didn't really expect was like how much my empathy would be cranked up. I mean, you're so hormonal, but on top of that, just your ability to relate to others, it just felt like it changed, right? You just are way more connected to human nature after having children. And I just didn't realize that. I mean, I took Myers-Briggs in vet school, and then I did take it again after having a kid, and it actually changed. I went from an ENFJ to an ESFJ. And that S change is like along the lines of like sensitivity. And so I was crying in commercials. I mean, I'm sure we can all relate to that. And so when you're working, you know, it can be really hard to decompress, like not take work home with you. Maybe you have a difficult client in front of you and you're struggling to work through it because you're just like so charged. And so like remembering that, and when you feel that, know that it's normal. And that's why it's so important to take your mental health seriously, and is honestly probably why I had to leave VetMed a year ago for a little stint, because I wasn't taking care of myself once I had two kids. I was running a 24/7 emergency hospital and had a child with medical needs as well. And it was just a lot. And I wish I had taken it more seriously.
I feel like that's such an important point to listen and to pay attention to what your body's telling you.
And I just wanted to jump in as well. Obviously, I am newly postpartum. My little boy is just 4 months on the 16th of May. So haven't been back in the clinic yet, but figured I would jump into this conversation as more like an expectation versus the reality. Like, you know, at this point, I can't even imagine going back. And I know that many of you that work in the States have had to go back so soon. Just having to kind of navigate that like so early on, and, you know, while you're still figuring out how to do everything as a new mom, I think is insane. And like, you're all superhuman. And basically, like, you know, not really having any idea of what to expect, but like being so tired that you don't even, you know, you can't even remember if you took your vitamins today, like let alone what food that dog was eating or what ear that infection was in. So anyway, just on here to kind of get a little bit more reality about what going back is going to be like. So I appreciate being invited to the chat.
Oh my gosh, of course. And Katie, have you had any thoughts about or any sort of feelings around being out of the clinic? Because I know you're still in your postpartum journey, and tell us a little bit about what that feels like for you. Because I imagine being, you know, working as hard as all of you have to create these amazing careers and identify with it so closely, it must be challenging to sort of identify now with something so completely different.
Basically, I was at a function the other day, and a colleague from Scribenote asked me like what I missed, like if I missed the clinic or if I missed working at Scribenote, and I said no, I don't miss anything yet, because like I'm in like the best part of, you know, something that I've always wanted to experience. And like obviously the work is so important, and when I'm in it 110%. And like I think that is why Scribenote exists, is because I could never get myself out of the room to write my records. I spent like the maximum amount of time with my clients and you know, trying to build that relationship with them. So currently I do not miss it. Obviously when I go back, it'll be you know, really nice to get back into it. I have some amazing clients that have followed me kind of like all the different places that I've been. So like I miss the people, and I definitely miss like seeing pets every day, but I don't miss working right now. And I think like I Marie and Ashley said, like it's nice to be able to kind of reset your boundaries going back in as a new mom. So it's really nice to hear people say that, like that, you know, you've got to give yourself permission to have that dual role, and they're both super important.
I feel like that's a perfect segue into our next question. And Katie, I know especially for you, being as you work with your family, your brother started this company, your sister works there as well. But for all of you, what's one boundary you've set at work or at home that's changed everything for you? And Katie, considering you were just sort of talking about this, I'd love to start with you.
Okay. Yeah, so sometimes I literally at family dinners we're talking about Scribenote. And so I'll have to say, okay, like let's talk about something else because it's something that all of us are so closely invested in. So just kind of like constantly telling family that, like, okay, even though we all are in it, and my brother is probably the worst for this, like he is like 24/7, 365 scribe note all the time. And so you can't, even at some dinners recently he's been like, oh, do you want to see this new thing? And so obviously I'll take him up on it when I'm very much out of the loop right now. But yeah, some family dinners I have to kind of draw the line in the sand, like let's stop talking about work because we should just really be involved in other aspects of our lives at some point. So yeah, it's a different boundary setting.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I feel like I'd imagine even being in sort of the same career as like your spouse or a good friend that you're around a lot or a family member, that alone is, brings in sort of that discussion, let alone if you're working side by side. Ashley or Marie, have either of you experienced this at home at all as well?
Yeah, I would say, it's important to remember boundaries don't have to be extreme to be effective. So you can start with one and kind of build based on how things are going. For me, it was really that separation of work and family life. I wanted to be able to give my kids quality time when I was working full time because it can just feel like these tiny moments sandwiched in your week. So the big thing I did was starting a rule of putting my phone away the minute I walked in the door. Granted, my job was running a 24/7 hospital, so I really had no safe time, right? I wasn't in a practice that closed at 6 p.m. But the way I could cut the information, to my brain so I could just read away, but then like keeping my Apple Watch on so I could be pinged if something time sensitive happened. So just remembering, while technology and all of this is amazing, it's also important to take breaks from it because you'll get a message from a client because somehow they got our phone number or a coworker to vent about something, and you really need that hard stop to help your brain reset and focus on your family.
Yeah, I love everything that Katie and Ashley have said, and I think it really speaks to, the boundaries that we put around our work lives, and in the hopes of preserving our home lives. I think about boundaries too in terms of having my needs met and knowing what my limits are. And this has just become so clear for me while parenting a daughter that has special needs and is very spicy and takes a lot of my energy, is that I have learned that I am such a better mom when I am taking care of myself. And that was the hardest thing for me early on with postpartum. And I mean, some of it was just logistical. I was by myself. I mean, there's only so much that you can do when you're feeding and napping and pumping, 24/7 really is what it feels like in the early stages. And I recognize more and more and more. And I've always said this in my well-being work, to be the best coworker, veterinarian, human that we can be at work, we have to take care of ourselves, or we're not going to be able to give back to our patients and clients. And I think this is amplified as a mom, at least for me, that if I am not getting up early in the mornings to exercise, if I am not putting my foot down that I'm going to go to the bathroom this one time without you with me in the bathroom so that I can just be alone for 2 minutes. Like those boundaries about I need my time, I need my space, I need to take care of me. And it's so hard, when our kids need us and whatever it is. And I can remember I had a doula for a short time postpartum. And I remember her saying to me, when Bethany needs to be fed in the night, make sure you get up, go to the bathroom and have a drink of water before you go to her, because otherwise you're going to grab her and then you're going to sit down and start feeding, and then you're going to have to go pee and you're going to be hungry and you're going to be resentful and all of these things. And it has just so stuck with me. And then it's morphed over the months and years that she has grown up, is that it takes on new looks, but it's the same thing. I have to take care of myself to show up as the mom I want to be. And as soon as I'm, you know, losing my patience or not really engaged with her, you know, whatever it is, I know that it's because I haven't taken care of myself. And so that's a huge boundary that I've had to give myself permission to set.
I think that that's such a hard thing in this field. Like, even a few of the clinics that I've worked at, like, boundaries don't seem to be allowed, you know, like, oh, okay, well, we're closed at 8, but we're going to take on a case at 10 too, because, you know, we should really be, you know, helping them out type of thing. And really, like, the getting home, it doesn't matter because the clients and the patients matter more. But I think that's the reason we have such a big network, you know, of people, like referrals and ERs, and that's the reason that those things exist, because you can't do it 24/7, right? And I found that was always really hard for me, like boundary setting before being a mom, and now, like, listening, I really think that it just changes your perspective of, like Marie, you said, kind of having everything wrapped up into a bow. Again, it changes your perspective. Like, you can go home, it's covered, you know, you've got colleagues that you can lean on, and hopefully kind of you can, like, leave work at work. And obviously not always the case, but something that I'm going to strive to do when I go back.
Yeah, it's such an incredible thing that we're all like able to do at times, right? To balance out, like to be able to do all of the things at once. But I also think being able to recognize when you're at your limit and then knowing what to do from there, and what to do is something that can be incredibly hard. So I'm so happy that we're all talking about it. And Maria, I'd love to dig into that a little more, actually, because you mentioned that some ways that you knew that when you needed something, you know, you were starting to feel a little bit impatient or a little bit, you know, just not yourself. Are there any like other ways that you start to recognize that within yourself? Because I don't know if that's always like easy, even for me to do.
In terms of recognizing when I need to take care of myself?
Yeah, like recognizing
Better?
you're feeling a little bit burned out, and or you're feeling like you need just a moment to yourself. Just ways that you're able to sort of like identify that before you get to that place that you're, you know,
Yeah.
in a really bad
Yeah.
place.
I think some of it just comes with, you know, self-awareness and self-knowledge, that we get to know what we need. I mean, the hardest thing for me postpartum was not getting enough sleep. You know, I live with a mood disorder, and it's, you know, fluctuated throughout my adult life, and my depression and anxiety was really flared up postpartum. And I know it was because I wasn't getting more than, you know, an hour or two of sleep at a time. And so, you know, I also know that I need to move my body to help with my anxiety, and I get hangry, so I need to eat. I can't go, you know, 8 to 10 hours without eating. I need to have food in my body, or I start, you know, my blood sugar drops and I start to get a little bit delirious. I ate so much while I was breastfeeding. I mean, this is all coming back to me, like the snacks I had at my bedside table. And anyways, all that to say, to be honest, early on, I don't think I knew until it was over the line. And then in retrospect, I was like, oh, I didn't eat this morning, or I didn't have a snack, or I really didn't get enough sleep last night, or I haven't moved my body in 2 days, or I haven't been outside. And now I just know what I need. It's almost like they've become non-negotiables, which for me are a form of boundaries. Like, I need to move my body every day. I need to get outside. I need a little bit of time just for me. I do much better when I've gotten 7+ hours of sleep a night. And so, you know, I think I have that awareness now that I can feel when maybe something's a bit off with my energy, with my mood, with my thoughts, with my words. And I've just learned to proactively own it and not feel bad about it, and not feel like it makes me a weak or needy person, but that this is what I do so that I can show up the best version of myself. I think all humans would be better off and show up better in the world, listening to their needs and giving themselves permission to do that rather than just powering through or pushing our needs to the side. I hope that makes sense.
That resonates with me too, because motherhood is definitely like this incredible self-reflective journey. And I have a 2 and a 5-year-old right now. So I've been in the thick of tantrum season, and I have seen my inner child much more clearly. And I realize, like, along those lines of you, I see my inner child come out in adult tantrums. Like, I'm like, I am having a tantrum right now. And that's okay. And that means that my needs aren't being met. I'm maybe exhausted because of another sleep regression happening. And it's just interesting, but it segues into the next question, and get into it in a moment. But it's so important to listen to yourself and work through these things, because it's also bringing up points that are going to help you become stronger, more capable, and a great role model to your children to work through these things, because staying calm was something that doesn't come naturally to me. I tend to be a very like reactive go, go, go girl. And so when you have kids, you realize you really have to slow down. And the only way to do that when you're low on sleep is to find other things that fill your cup so you can kind of feel okay in the moment.
Yeah, and that's such an important like thing to talk about, I think, because the guilt is really real, right? To like feel like you can't take a second for yourself because the kids need you and you have to be kind of go, go, go. Like that's just what being a working mom sort of forces you to do. And Ashley, I know now that you're part-time, like I would love to hear like what has changed for you and how you're feeling about that decision. It must have been a very big one for you, I can imagine.
It was tough. I felt like I was on this really fast, like career trajectory. I graduated in 2014. So, 12 years where I reached this like top of I'm now a leader of a hospital. It felt a lot more manageable with one child. I am married, so I'm grateful to have support. We don't have family nearby, so it is my husband and I. But when we tipped over to 2, that's where it started to feel you got that man on man. And it just started to feel a little more difficult to do the day-to-day. And really, truly, it was taking care of my mental health was a big thing that I just backburnered myself for an entire year. And my second child was born with a tracheoesophageal fistula, so her esophagus was not connected at birth. So she had surgery and basically ended up having about, I think it was around 90 medical visits my first year back full time. So I'm juggling work plus a child with medical needs plus another child plus everything else. So I just was burned out to a crisp, and it took a dramatic, like, I just gotta pause and get out of here to reset. And so I only bring this up for finances allow and you're in this really tough moment, it is okay to take a career pause. We're grateful and lucky to have this great career that we can come back to at any time. So it probably took me 6 months to like let go a little bit, because your job feels like such a big part of your identity. And I felt like I was letting people down, with vet shortages happening. And I'm like, why can't I do this like other moms? But I realized I had to just take that pause for 6 months. And so kind of dipping back into part-time has been a really nice balance of being there for my family and also still feel connected to VetMed. And I'm hopeful to get back to full-time when my youngest is in kindergarten. So it's been a journey, but there's a lot of guilt that comes with it in both ways.
Oh, I could imagine. I feel like it's something that I've thought about as well in terms of like, spending more time with my family and sort of that. I feel like that thought is always there, at least for me. And it's interesting to hear your perspective on it, because it is something that like we work so hard for our careers, right? And we identify with it so strongly that it's like, what does that mean for us then? So thank you for sharing your perspective. I feel like I already feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that. And in saying all these things and understanding this, this crazy life that we live and this crazy balance we try to maintain, what are some things or tools or people or anything, mindsets that you guys have chosen to use to help you balance all of this?
Yeah, I'd love to springboard off of what Ashley said, because this has been a huge thing for me. And this is something I share with people all the time, is that we have to remember that we go through seasons in our lives. And this took me a while to accept, similar to Ashley, when I had to step away from clinical practice because I was solo parenting. It was the pandemic. Even going back since, it's challenging for me because I do still, I am in a partnered relationship now. I'm engaged, but we have a blended family and children that are in very different stages of life. And my daughter has additional needs. And so I would love nothing more than to be in clinical practice full time. And I, I hate using the word can't because I feel like it's so disempowering. But it's just not happening in this season of my life. And I remind myself all the time, this is just one season in my life. And I've been a veterinarian now for 22 years, and I've spent a lot of time in practice in a lot of different hospitals across Canada and the US in a lot of different roles. And I know that I will be able to find my way back into clinical practice at some point when it's right for my family. I do still take shifts whenever I can. It's hard as an ER doctor and criticalist because most of those shifts are 10, 12, 14 hours. And so that just doesn't work for my family structure right now. And again, reminding myself repeatedly, this is just a season of my life. This is not a lifetime. Looking at our career as a marathon, not a sprint. I know, Ashley, you were sprinting to the top, and I was the same. I was like in academia and research and pushing, and it put me into burnout. And then as a sole proprietor and locuming and traveling and pushed me into burnout. And when I finally got pregnant with Bethany after years of trying, I recognized right away, I'm going into a different season in my life. I'm going to have to shift my work to that which I can do at home, to that which has a regular schedule. And that's where I moved a lot of my online programs and coaching, or my retreats and coaching, to online offerings. And I'm, again, trying to find ways to work back into doing more in-person clinical practice and not just teleconsulting. And at the same time, I'm being gentle with myself that it's okay. This could look so different months even from now, for sure years from now. And I think we all can relate to that as moms. Like, we think about the season of our, like, I look at Katie, the season of life that you're in with your son who's just 4 months old. And I remember that time and how different it looked. It'll look when he's 8 months old and 2 years old. And so things are always changing, and we can have regressions and other things, like Ashley mentioned, that add more to our plate and maybe cause us to have to take a step back from our work. And that's okay. It will always be there for us, just like Ashley said. So I know it's a lot. I just feel so strongly about that notion, and I hope that resonates with some of the folks that are listening.
Yeah, I honestly, I wanted to kind of jump on like the comments that you made, Marie, because even prior to becoming a mom, right? Like the stress of this job can certainly affect you and your fertility. And, you know, I know so many women who, you know, have had to do IVF, and we tried for 2 years before I got pregnant, and really, like, until I took a step back and went into like part-time work and with Scribenote more full-time, and still doing clinic shifts, because you do give so much of yourself to this profession. You know, sometimes like it feels like so soul sucking, right? Like it just takes everything from you. I think that step back, like even if you're trying to start a family and you like need that reset, just remember that that's okay too, right? Like it doesn't have to be after, it can be before, it can be whenever you feel like you need it. It certainly, I think, helped us kind of get to where we are now. Like now we have a beautiful little boy, and like, you know, it's just such a profound thing, right? Motherhood is such a huge part of your, you know, your being. It's just, yeah, I couldn't imagine not being a mom now, and so really like the job is the job, but if you need to step back, just remember, like, it's okay, because you're so important as well.
Absolutely. And something I always try to remind myself of too, and I don't know if this resonates with you guys as well, but uh, they're only little ones, you know, so I feel like I'm okay, and I try to be more okay with, you know, reminding myself of that when there are opportunities that I would typically be really excited about, and knowing they'll come back around or they're still there, and that it is truly a season. But in sort of saying that and still balancing everything that all of you do, what are things that have been helpful to help you sort of get through, you know, the work that you are doing, and things that make it feel, the burden feel a little bit lighter for you?
Okay, well, maybe I'll start this one. So Scribenote obviously is, I think, really changed the way that I felt about clinical practice. So I'll give you guys the Coles Notes version of the origin story, but basically when I was just 3 years out, so I graduated in 2016, my brother was in engineering as a student, and he followed me around in the clinic and was like, wow, you're literally doing everything twice. Like, you do your whole appointments, your whole day, and then you have to go and you remember everything at the end of the day. I'm gonna make that different for you, like, reduce your documentation. I'm sure we can pick up that conversation that's already happening in the exam room. So that's kind of how Scribenote came to be, just because I stayed late at work all the time to finish my notes. I could not imagine going back to practicing without it. And I obviously I'm sure a little biased because my brother started it, and we've been very much intertwined. But the clinic that I work at currently, everybody uses it there. It's so helpful to take that, like, mental load off during the day, especially when, going in and building rapport, and, using that full appointment time, because things have gotten so costly, because, people don't always trust veterinarians anymore. I especially really want to, like, make that relationship a priority, not running out of the room to finish my notes so I can get home on time. So it just allows for that, more efficiency, more productivity, because I don't have to worry about jotting things down. I listen more, like, intently. Sorry, my words. My little boy's in his 4 month sleep regression right now, so I don't even know what I'm saying right now. So
You're in the right place. It's okay.
yeah, give me some grace there. But yeah, I think realistically, like, I could not go back to practicing without some kind of assisted, listening, record writing helper, because I think I would die. Anyway.
I swear you can Google and there's a regression like every month. It always makes me feel better.
It's nice to find when you're in the middle of it, for sure.
Like, yeah, what is happening right now? Yeah, agree.
Oh, I mean, I mentioned earlier, 2 and a 5-year-old, and I swear every 30 minutes, one of them was crying until like 11 o'clock last night. So, like, it unfortunately doesn't always get easier, I feel like 0 to 5 is just a lot of unstable sleep. But yeah, I would say if I was going to add a tool, because I'm in the thick of like tantrums and toddlers, is I really try to fill the downtime, and maybe this is just the professional side of me with loving leadership and development, but fill it with like podcasts and things that help you feel good and learn, but are like casual. So if you're going on a stroller walk, I really like the Calm Parenting podcast. I feel like he does a really good job at like helping you as a human and a parent, as well as provide advice.
Go ahead and just poke you.
But it's been really nice to listen to those things while I'm just like kind of having these moments where maybe I don't feel good about the last interaction, I had, and it helps me just kind of come up with new ideas. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I've been trying to find things that help me, just learn. And that's also probably millennial. We like over so much information, overkill all the time.
No, I think that's amazing advice.
I'd love to address Melissa's question in the chat. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you. Melissa shares that one struggle I have is feeling like I'm behind in my career, not doing as much as colleagues, etc. Do others feel the same? And even though I know my priorities are in the right place, Melissa, I think you have 3 kiddos, if I remember correctly. How do we deal with this? And I feel this all the time. I think we all feel this acutely when we take a parental leave. I mean, here in Canada, I know we've got folks in the US tuning in as well. Here in Canada, I mean, we can take, I was self-employed, so I did technically not get a maternity leave. So I just took, a few months before going back to work. But legally, if you are employed, you can have up to 18 months in some circumstances of parental leave that is subsidized by the government. And so it's a long time. It can feel like a long time to be away. And so I think even just if you take, I know friends that took 6 months and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. There's all these new drugs and I've forgotten half of this stuff. Like, it's hard to not feel like you are falling behind or missing out, even just by having children. And add on top of that, if we've taken multiple leaves and or we've gone to part-time or we've shortened our schedules to accommodate our parenting responsibilities, of course, we're going to feel like we may not be achieving that which others are. And I feel this as a researcher. I feel this as a criticalist that only works part-time, as an ER doctor that spends most of my time reading well-being research and not always keeping up on the cutting edge ER ER journals and so on. I think the biggest thing that I tell myself is to stay in my own lane and not compare myself to other people. We are all on our own journeys. When I left academia, I grieved. I had to grieve the loss of a career that I envisioned in academia for the rest of my life. I wanted to be close to family, and at the time there was no vet school in Alberta, and that wasn't going to be possible for me to be at a vet school full time for the duration of my career. And so I think sometimes we have these ideals about all these things we're going to accomplish and the businesses we're going to run and the things that we're going to do and the papers we're going to publish. And it may not be what's for us at the end of the day. And look at all these other wonderful things that you are putting out into the world that may not be aligned with your career. Again, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and, right? That we can just bring incredible compassion and proficiency and care to the work that we are doing in our incredible profession, and then also with our families. So I've given myself permission to just not compare myself to everybody else. Everybody's journeys are different, and this is my journey, and it doesn't look exactly how I thought it would. And I still know that when I'm in the clinic, I am making a difference. When I am doing my well-being work, I'm making a difference. And when I'm spending time with my daughter and my family, I'm making a difference in this world. So that's what I would say. And I'd love to hear what others' recommendations and advice are.
I love that. I feel like that's such an incredible perspective to have in thinking about making a difference through our children. We have another question from Caitlin coming in as well. She asked, what recommendations do y'all have for renegotiating a contract to better align with childcare needs? I feel like this is such a great question.
I think you really just have to be upfront with what you need. Like we've been talking about, like you need to, you can't give from an empty cup. And so like Marie has said, like Ashley has said, I think any reasonable employer should listen to concerns of that nature, right? You, as somebody, working for, a corporation, an individual owner, anything really, they're not going to get as much from you if you're not getting what you need. And so just coming to them as a person, being honest, and hopefully you have a relationship where you can do so. And sometimes that might even look like a location change, right? If it's not something that they're willing to meet you halfway on, then sometimes then saying goodbye is the better option. But realistically, like, just being honest with what you need. I think no one's gonna ever assume what you need. You just have to talk about it in order to get what you want out of your hours, etc. So sometimes those conversations are really tough, and we have that guilt and that almost like, well, I'm less of a vet if I'm not able to stay and things like that. And I've had all those feelings, but again, like, just be honest with your employer, and hopefully they'll be willing to meet you halfway.
That's fantastic advice. I feel like being able to be flexible even about where you work is a great thing to keep in mind, if it's just not a good fit. And we have one more question from Alexa. She says, I'm a medical director and I struggle with setting a good example for others while being the boss. Any recommendations? Great question. That's a ton of pressure, especially as a mom.
I was in your shoes, so I understand. And, as they always say, it to a degree, like the top kind of helps set the tone, right? And we want to take care of our people. And in order to take care of our people, we do have to take care of ourselves. So a lot of what I would try to do, at least with my team, was just I would be open with them on where I was in my journey. Like, if I was having a tough time with one of my kids, I would share that, but in a way that was humanizing, so they knew where I was coming from. And then in general, with like setting the example, is just, I knew when I had to tap myself out. If I was really struggling, I would have my partner kind of maybe step in and take care of something. I would just be easy with myself if I was in a tough spot kind of early in the parenting journey. But boundaries are something our whole profession needs to work on. And so having that and helping foster that within your hospital and culture is going to be huge. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to help others through your own journey of boundary setting and recalibrating with your team.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ashley, for that. That's amazing. And this will probably be our last question, just because we are getting a little bit close to time. But Stephanie asks, how do you deal with the guilt of having to take last minute time off to care for a sick kiddo?
I'll speak to that. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about guilt and where it comes from. And I think, there was comments early on, and just how much guilt women, those who identify as female and those who carry the bulk of the childcare responsibility because of the way society is, because of the way our relationships are structured, we feel a lot of guilt. We're guilty when we're at work and not with our kids, and we're guilty when we're with our kids and not at work. And if, heaven forbid, a child is sick and we have to take time off. And I think there's societal reasons where this guilt comes from. I think it's also cultural in VetMed. Like, it's just always been, push through, power through, don't let anything slow you down. There are no sick days. There is no time off. My mom owned a companion animal practice for more than 40 years, and she would bring us to work. Like, we were sick, we would be at work with her, which is bonkers, and not what I would recommend, by the way. And so I have really learned to remind myself, why is this so important that I'm home with my child? Like, what in the big picture of life, they need me right now. They need me to be here. And this is the way that it is. And focusing on that self-compassion, this sucks. It sucks that I have to take time off. It sucks that the team is now short-staffed, or, having to call my clients and reschedule because I can't be there, if we're talking GP. And that's okay. We're going to get through this. And if anybody else was in your situation and had a child that was sick and needed to go, you would have that compassion for them. And yet for ourselves, we are so hard on ourselves, right? You know, the shoulds, you should be at work, and the guilt that goes along with it. So self-compassion for me has been a transformative practice, in addition to so many things that folks have mentioned here, the mindfulness, you know, the walks, the everything else. Being so kind to myself rather than berating myself, that has really helped to alleviate some of that guilt. Just how would I treat a friend if they were in this situation? Well, of course they would need to be home with their child, and we would figure it out, and we would be okay. And for those folks that maybe aren't okay, I think we've all heard the murmurings of, well, you know, if I had a child, I would like to leave at 5 or whatever. I'm sorry, but it's something that unless you're in that role, you just maybe don't quite fully understand it. And that's okay, because everybody's on their own journey, like I said before. So I feel like I'm talking in circles, but I'd love to hear what Ashley and Katie, how they get over the guilt, because I think we all feel it.
Oh, I wish I had an answer, because like the easiest thing I could say is a glass of wine.
Perfect.
But you're right. You know, it goes earlier, I mentioned mental health. I really think it helps to just like talk to someone. Um, Obviously, therapy is very helpful, just to have someone that's out of the field, unbiased, there to support you. But just being able to talk it out with someone you love, and pulling it outside of VetMed, because I think sometimes like we're friends with people in VetMed, you know, our circles are all VetMed, and sometimes you just have to get out of that and talk to other people in different roles, different life stages, to help kind of reframe things. But I mean, it took me 8 months to get over my work guilt, and I wouldn't say it's gone. But I realized that life is an evolution, and I look back at all that I've accomplished, and I see all these, you know, amazing humans in their 50s thriving and doing really cool stuff. And I say that because I'm hitting 40 next year, so I'm kind of like seeing the decades stack up here. But like life isn't over, right? Like we are just in a season where we're here to help our kids and kind of get back to, you know, as they say, get your pink back. I love that little kind of analogy with flamingos. So if you haven't heard that.
I love that. Get your pink back. I feel like I'm going to embody that for the next at least few weeks. That's adorable. That's really sweet. And thank you all so much to our panelists. That this has been such an incredible conversation. And I feel like for so many, it seems as though people can really understand where you're all coming from, and really help to validate others, you know, and know that you're not alone, and know that we're all in this together, and we can talk about it. So thank you. And yeah, I'm gonna, since we only have a couple minutes left, I wanna jump in and show you guys what our new companion can do. Because I think for a lot of you, I'm hopeful that this can be a big part of getting you home on time and getting you some time back in your life. And so this is, I feel like, a very real situation for everyone. It's 6:47, your last appointment ended at 5:30. You are so not feeling good, you know, dinner's getting cold, you have homework to do, you know that there's notes, there's so much to do. And so what we've done at Scribenote is we've given you back, hopefully, again, your very new best friends. These are our AI companions. What we've done, if you've experienced our previous companion, is sort of marry all of them together. So we have Otto, he's your guide for any sort of help with Scribenote or organizing things. Sage is our clinical support, and Quill is our editor, and Summy is our summarizer. And now they're all sort of living together under one roof. And so I wanted to show you a really cool way that you guys can take some of this and apply it. And one of the things that I love most, and so your companions live over here in this sidebar. And you can see their little pictures at the top, so cute. Open it up, and then what we've done is really just sort of create an AI, you know, chat and like support companion to help you. And one of my favorite things that it's able to do is creating a to-do list, because I'm a big list girl. And so what you can do is I'm going to ask it to create a list of all the things I need to do based on my last 4 appointments. And so you can pop it in here. and it can show you and pull out all of the things you need to do so that you can sort of start to check things off your list and get it all into one place so that you don't have to go back and search through everything and remember. And if you said that you were going to send food home with one of your patients, or, you know, get a med to CVS, that's something that's sort of, you know, more outside your typical workflow, which I feel like is such a common thing that can happen. This will really help with that. And Karen, yeah, so they were free in beta. So we did have this in beta for probably the last few months. And now we have them, they're actually fully launched. And so you have a trial if you go in, especially if you have not tried Scribenote yet, you'll go in and you'll get, I believe, 500 treats in there. So you can go in and check those out. All right, so here is our list from the 4 appointments I have over here. And so you can really easily see the things that you need to do and where you're at based on all of your appointments and all of your recordings. And so for any of you who have not tried Scribenote in general or tried our companions, I encourage you to do so. And we will be offering actually a very cool, some really great giveaways. If you go in, you sign up, we have a gift card, we have some Scribenote merch, and a signed book from Dr. Marie. So please go in, sign up, check it out. We'll follow all this up with some emails and some more information for you. Thank you so much. This has been such an incredible Mother's Day gift, at least to me, and I hope you all feel the same. So thanks for joining. Oh, and I see, Karen, you had an additional question. Staff use all the treats. How do we move forward in getting you more? Yeah, you know what? You can actually go into your account in your preferences and you'll see the companion bar in there. And you can go in and click in and then you can buy treat packs or a subscription, either way. And feel free to respond to our email too if you need any additional help, and reach out and we can help you there as well. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Run away. We know you're all moms here, the majority are, so you've got a million things to do. Again, thank you so much for coming, and to our panelists, thank you for your time. It's been so insightful and really validating to hear everything you've had to say.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
You're first.
Bye. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
I know.
Thanks, guys.